Okay. Hey, good evening. The Design Review Board No.1 public meeting of September the 3rd is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available by calling our Design Review Board hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Board Member Aliano is on his way. Board Member Insua is also on his way. Board Member Palmer. Here. Board Member Simonian.
Present.
Chairman Yu.
Here.
Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on August 27th, 2009. Oral communications. I have no oral communication speaker cards.
I have no cards.
All right. Which brings us to the review calendar. There are no staff announcements, and there are no items in the consent calendar. We would like to make note that the second item on tonight's agenda has been improperly noticed and will need to be re-noticed in terms of the poster board that's placed on the site. As such, and again, this is for Design Review Board case number 1-PDR 2009-054-A, the project being located at 397 Nolan Avenue. Because of this issue, we would like to continue the matter for 2 weeks to September the 17th without further public notice. We would need a motion and a vote as well. So is there someone who would like to make a motion to continue the matter? And again, this would be for the project located at 397 Nolan Avenue to be continued until September the 17th without further public notice.
I'll move that we continue 397 Nolan Avenue to September 17th.
A motion made by Board Member Palmer. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Board Member Simonian. Roll call. Board Member Palmer.
Yes.
Board Member Simonian.
Yes.
Board Member Ivan Insua has just joined us.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. And Chairman Yu.
Yes.
The motion passes 4-0 to continue. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chairman Yu.
Thank you. Welcome to Design Review Board 1 for Thursday, September 3rd. Our one only case of 1PDR 2009-026-A, 214 East Garfield Avenue. Mr. Joe, it's all yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Next case before you is 1-PDR-2009-026A. This project's located at 214 East Garfield Avenue, located in the South Brand Specific Plan Residential Zoning R2250 zone. This is the first time submittal for the board's review. The project description is to construct a attached two-level dwelling unit and an attached 619 square foot three-car garage located at the rear of the existing duplex. The proposed attached two-level unit will be the third new unit on the lot. Minor alterations will be at the front and side elevations of the existing duplex to complement the rear expansion and create a more harmonious building design. Into details of the existing property, it was developed in 1916 with a two-story, 2,036 square foot duplex with a detached non-conforming 516 square foot three-car garage. The property is approximately 7,500 square feet, relatively flat and regular in shape. On site planning, the front duplex will retain its two-story configuration, and since the proposed two-story unit will be located at the rear portion of the lot, It will match the height of the existing duplex, and minimal impact will occur to the rhythm of the streetscape as a result of the project. On to mass and scale, the existing two-story volume and the pitched roof design of the north elevation facing East Garfield will remain its height of 27 feet 3 inches. The proposed unit will be shielded by the existing duplex, and the new rear unit will feature arrangements of designs to soften the appearance, such as a gable roof designs, break in the roof form, variations of plane, and a recessed second level along the east, south, and west elevation. The second floor balcony in the terrace also breaks up the massing of the building and the proposed unit. Staff will recommend to put a wooden trellis instead of the solid cover one to further break up the visual mass. Onto architectural style, the existing duplex exhibits an altered craftsman style. Although the project will not alter the architectural style of the front existing unit, the project proposes to include updated details, design features, materials such as face brick wainscot around the entire building, aluminum single hung and sliding windows facing the interior lot, iron railings at the front porch, exposed rafter tails, and corbels. Although the details for the aluminum windows had not been included in the project, staff has recommendations which will be included in the conditions, which I will read. But staff's recommendation for the project, however, is to approve the project with the following conditions. Condition number 1, recessed quality windows with wood sills and surrounds for the addition, as well as the existing front elevation facing East Garfield should be provided. The applicant should explore or investigate areas to include cementous fiberboard or hardy plank sidings at logical locations along the front and side elevations. The wooden trellis should be considered above the new terrace to add to further reduce the visual mass. Condition number 4, the used or face brick and not to be brick veneer should be used wherever brick is proposed. The 5th condition, the landscape plan submitted during the plan check should include a planting palette with only native or drought-tolerant grasses, ground covers, shrubs, and trees. And the last and final condition, to provide permeable paving at the driveway area. This concludes staff's presentation, and the applicant is present.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff?
I have some questions for staff, and I think it might be best if I could perhaps get you to point a few things out.
Sure, absolutely.
The existing footprint of the unit in the front, is the footprint going to change at all?
No, there's no alterations to the existing front unit. I know it's kind of difficult.
Hard to tell.
Absolutely. It does. You look at the.
There you go.
Thank you. This portion right here, which I have a section of the existing. This is where the pitch of the roof is rather steep, and basically what they're doing, this is the second floor of the addition, which is going to kind of project over that area right there. So the footprint over here never really expands. However, they are actually minimizing this bump out right here, and they're moving in other areas, so that the total aggregate of the floor area of this existing unit never increases, it actually decreases.
I understand.
This area that kind of bumps out over the driveway, it's the balcony that kind of cantilevers over the driveway, so the footprint never really expands.
So is that the existing unit, is it a single unit or is it a duplex right now?
It is an existing duplex.
And so is one unit on the first floor and second unit on the second floor?
That's correct. There is a first unit over here.
The reason why I'm asking, it was really hard to understand at the drawings and going through it, and so.
Correct. The existing floor plans are, I provided on the left, so here's the existing footprint as it's drawn out over here, and we have the existing floor plan of the first unit and the second unit right here.
And so what's being added is a third unit with its garage on the ground level and some living space, and then the bedrooms on the second floor.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
And so then this is the break line between units 2 and 3, say?
Correct.
And then the trellis that staff is recommending is in this area?
Actually, the trellis, instead of having the covered, I guess the covered deck above this garage right here, staff is recommending they provide further, breaking up the visual mass, having an open trellis.
I see, so you're
Instead of
referring to that.
this, that's correct.
And staff had recommended some siding on the facades as well. Any specific locations or just overall recommended both stucco and siding to be utilized?
It was more of a suggestion to further break up, I don't want to call it monotony of just stucco everywhere, but maybe logically put up a variation of materials to provide some type of different siding.
And the north elevation, which is the existing elevation, besides some details you mentioned that it's going to stay the same, what are some details that are being added to it? Do you know, or is that more of a question for the applicant?
From the photos that were up front, I know that the first and foremost, the major one was it's more of it's almost like a gate or whatnot, which is kind of, I don't want to say enclosing, but it has like a gate area and a gate door opening. So it's although it's a small thing, but it's almost like a major thing in the front where they're actually providing more of an open area so that it more looks like a porch
So
instead
they're
of having
removing that security fence?
That's
gate.
correct. They are, that's the major one. I know they were going to have some other details, but perhaps the applicant could.
Okay. And the windows,
The brick is new, right?
Yes, that's correct. Could be the planner. Maybe they're replicating the planner around, but maybe we can ask the applicant to maybe expand on that.
thank you. I have no more questions.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Are we okay? Okay. Then let's go to our one and only card. Armik, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Rick Shanazarian, 639 West Broadway, Glendale, California. Basically, if I may answer any questions that you have.
Okay.
Basically, he explained the project. So if you have any questions or any comments.
I think the first question that we were talking about was, could you maybe go through what the changes will be on the front facade,
May I
if
approach?
any? Sure.
Yes.
The front facade, I believe, we're removing the wrought iron. But basically maintaining exactly what it is. Maybe adding some more.
Sorry, you're going to have to speak up simply
Okay.
because we have to make sure that your comments are recorded in the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe just we're going to maintain the breaks around the perimeter of the building. We might, depending on if we can match the color of the bricks, if we cannot find it, then we have to replace the existing ones with the new one.
Because you're going to add some brick on the sides?
Yes.
The driveway
The
side?
well, I think it wraps around all the building.
Both sides, all sides.
All sides wraps around
Okay.
the garage and the thing. So from experience, we might not find the same bricks.
Okay. And the windows, are you proposing new windows to match the existing, or are you replacing all the windows?
Well, I believe at this point we're going to end up replacing. We try to maintain it, but I don't know if at this time we will find something to match. But basically, it's going to be aluminum vinyl window with wood dripping around it. That's what I use.
Do you have a preference between vinyl or aluminum, or you really leaving it up to the board?
We'll leave it up to the board.
And what's the material around the windows?
It is a wood frame 1x5 white color.
It's actual wood?
Yes.
Painted wood?
Basically.
And is the framing going to be 2x4 framing or 2x6 frames?
I believe it's going to be 2x4 because we believe that the existing house uses a real 2x4. So it's going to be 2x4.
2x4. And you're not touching the roof in the front, but as it starts going towards the back, you're just extending the ridge here. So this portion stays the same,
Exactly.
and then you're just extending this
Extending.
ridge down.
Yes, we California this section. Just bring. One of the comments was try to create a trailers. The reason we did this, if you can see the roof breaks down, and if I put the trailers here, I want it to break down very easily, gently. Up with this roof. But we created this, but if the desire of the board is to have it trailers, we have no objection.
This space is right here.
Correct. This is the trailers, yeah, this is the area where we have.
So I'm wondering, so this roof right in here is what for?
This is this portion.
So that's,
This is it. This is it right here. Right. Fine, yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Is it your intent to, the decoration at the top of the gables, is it your intent to make the new ones match what's existing?
We try to match the
I mean, as far as size?
as far as the size and the. Try to match the-
And is there any intent to do anything with the existing garages?
At this point, no, unless it is really damaged. We try to maintain it and try to replace the stuff. And if it's board's desire to change the doors, try to match the same, we have no objection to it. Go ahead.
You had mentioned that the building up there, they were using one-bys for
That's
that.
why I was asking if there's going to,
You know if they're one-bys that they're using on the existing?
they're one by
No,
fours.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to ask you to speak up one more time, just,
Okay.
I'm talking about, these are one by fours right now.
I think it'd be 1x4, yes. I'm not sure. I'll
I
try
looked
to
at them
match.
today, and I thought they were one by four, so my question was whether you were going to increase those two bys just from a long-term
Our
maintenance
intention was try
standpoint.
to maintain it, but if it is necessary, we'll go with 2x4s. We replace the front one.
And also on this decorative railing, is that particular decoration, or are you trying to match the existing gates?
No, that was these are, I mean, if it's drawn like this, we'll have it made like this. This is, I think this will give us a little bit more. Pull it.
Sorry.
All the questions I have.
Do we have any other questions before the applicant sits?
Yeah, one other question. As far as the window surrounds are concerned, was there is there a preference to have the surrounds on all sides, or have you considered just having a simple wood sill and not have the surrounds go all the way around it? Has there been any discussions with that with your client and so forth?
My client, I don't think we had any problem with my client. I believe one of my staff talked to the staff over here and
Planning staff?
Yeah, and maybe that was the recommendation. I'm not aware of it.
I see. Okay. That was something that came out of the discussions.
Looks like this upper one is a stucco surround, right? That's what it looks like. The front ones here, they don't have any lines, so are you going to propose to put that detail on?
Yes.
Okay. That is one of the changes in the front.
Correct.
Okay, I think we're okay with the question for the applicant.
And so garage-wise, is the existing garage is being demolished,
No, the existing garage is being retained.
retained?
Retained, and then we're
Six
adding
parking spaces.
I see.
3 more spaces.
Because you're not touching the front two units, you're able to keep their
Exactly.
existing, and then you're only basically adding your parking
For the third.
for the third unit, because you're not touching the first units. Okay.
The third unit requires, I believe, 2 parking spaces and 25 guest parking with generators.
And then you have your kind of common area in the rear.
Correct.
And the landscape plan has some amenities for that common area, it seems as though.
Seats and benches.
Some station equipment. This trash area, do you think there'll be trash bins, or is it gonna be one of those,
It's going to be
trash bins?
Again, I'm sorry to do this to you, but we really can't hear you.
One of the options is to remove this and have the openings.
From that side, and then you'd have a more productive common open place. Is any of the outdoor space units, opportunity to open up some of these walls, side yard, are there any openings along those walls? It doesn't say. Solid, which elevation is it? It's this over here. This over here.
There's 2 windows.
Which would be, this would be for the new one, and this is the existing?
Correct.
Okay, and the existing lower level is one. Is this the window?
That's right. This is the window which you have access to the.
Very good, so there is some access
There's an
there.
access for lumber.
And then it pops out, which is this.
Right.
Which is this.
There was the pop-up was over here, which was a bathroom, which was eliminated.
Oh, okay. All right, I understand. It was demolished, and so then this window is right here.
Correct.
Okay, which might be an opportunity to open that up into the side yard.
But that serves the same room, the same unit, which you already have access.
You already have it over there.
This one has access to the back,
No, go ahead and take your time. Just let me know, okay?
and I believe the front, which they could use from the side.
I see, so this is nice, so they have this area in here.
Yeah, they have benches and bleachers and tables. It's 1 foot.
Sure, okay. Very good.
Do you have any idea what the paving is for the walkways and the patio areas? Didn't see it listed. Or just have a lake sided.
I think that's it for the questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is the only card that I have for the project, so we'll close it and start our discussions. Mr. Simonian, would you like to kick it off for us?
Yes, well, I appreciate the designer and taking his time to answer all the questions. Sometimes when there's only one item on the agenda, we end up spending a lot of time on that one item. So,
Lucky you.
Lucky you. Well, I'm glad we had that discussion because I think there's some opportunities to open up that common areas and those side areas, which I'll get to in a minute. But overall, what we have is a design which has really maintained the front facade of a building. And when we look at the overall context of the area, there's more multifamily, there's some single-family, just a mixed use, and there's really not a predominant architectural style. And what the designer has done is really kept the existing design of the building and added to the rear in a compatible manner, I think. Overall, I don't have major issues with the mass and scale. I think the trellis condition that staff has recommended would certainly soften up that rear portion. But But overall, I think there's been a lot of thought placed in the layout and to try to come up with an overall footprint and roof line that mimics and matches the existing building. And it's not an easy building to add on to, really, with those sloped roofs. You either got to demolish the roof, in which case you can't really touch it all that much, because then that existing parking is going to be null and void, I guess. And so the designer was, faced with that problem of trying to add on to this home without really altering it all that much. And so I see that what kind of efforts had gone into it. As far as the common open space is concerned, I think it would be a really good idea to turn this trash around so it's accessed from this side, and so we'd have a very workable open space in the rear here. I also think there's an opportunity to utilize this side yard by simply making this a sliding door and allowing this unit to utilize this area. This could be, a fence or whatnot. So this unit, the front unit, could enjoy, as the landscape architect has illustrated, the front portion, and this side portion could be utilized by this unit. As far as the window detailing is concerned, I think if we're able to have aluminum windows over vinyl, I think would be preferable. And there are companies that make different color aluminum windows now. I mean, there's probably 7 or 8 colors to choose from, which would be nice. Or you could go with the aluminum bronze color, let's say, with earth tone stucco, which would be a nice contrast in itself. If there's a thick wood sill to the window, I think that might be a better look. However, if the board, I think, as we go through the discussion, we could basically talk about actual wood surrounds as well. That might be compatible. As far as this real trellis is concerned that we're talking about, I think there is an opportunity to perhaps soften up this roof area in here as a transition, because it's just a little portion in this area, which is there. So I think by doing that, you would have that transition that you were talking about, and then having a trellis with some planters and maybe some bougainvillea that could ultimately grow into that trellis. So all in all, I do support the project, and I look forward to hearing what my colleagues have to say as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have you go next, but maybe we'll come back to you.
Last, because I missed it. Well, second to last.
Ms. Palmer, would you like to go next? You go ahead.
I also commend the architect for coming up with the designs and work with that existing front portion. I think it's nicely laid out. I have a couple comments regarding the gate on both sides in the front. I think it would really help if those were pushed back. Right now, they're at the face of the building, and on the left side, you could go back just behind the porch there, and then on the other side, push it back. I think that would help. I'm really concerned about the existing garage. I think once this, I like the garages that are there. Once the new ones and the new development goes in, I think that tin sheet metal garage is really going to look bad. And if there's a way to complement that to the new ones, I think that would really enhance the project. Regarding the landscape plan where we've got lawn proposed down the driveway, I don't think that's going to last, and I think it's probably a high water use. I would suggest to keep that permeable, but maybe incorporate the same brick that you have in the wainscot and do brick on sand as a permeable surface would really help, because there's already brick in the driveway there. And I would also eliminate the queen palms on the right side. They're not really a high water use, and I'm sure there's other trees screen that could be used, the landscape architect could find. Gates. Oh, I'm not sure what the decking material is or what color it is, but I would suggest that it be a complementary color to the house or the roof coloring, since it possibly will be seen. That's my only comments.
Thank you.
I would, too, want to commend the architect on doing a great job. It's really hard, as we know, to try to take a project that's more of a single-family design, although this is a duplex, but it still retains a single-family design. It's placed on a project site for a single-family design and try to execute something well. I think you did a great job, and I, too, commend how you kept with the style and brought in some of those little nuances to it. I agree that the front wrought iron may not be in keeping with the Craftsman style. I'm sure you'll come up with something that's fabulous. When you look at site plan A1, I don't think putting the common area, seating area and stuff in the front yard is necessarily the best. I agree with Mr. Simonian. I think that if you look at drawing number, so I wouldn't put the patio equipment in the front. I think you break up with the good quality architecture that you're continuing. But I think if you look at sheet A4, there's a way that the front portion of the side yard can be designated for unit number 1, since you already have a door coming in there off the dining room kitchen. There's a perfect break point where you can put in a little 5-foot-high pony wall or whatever between unit 1 and unit 3, or the bedroom break point. You can segment that area, as Mr. Simoni is saying, for the side yard for unit number 3, especially if you introduce a sliding door off of the living room of unit number 3. Perfect little private area for that, because you did such a great job. And then introduce in the rear common area a private yard area for unit number 2. Although it's not attached adjacent to unit number 2, it's still theirs, and I think you can achieve that. It's an aesthetic. I don't want to. This is not certainly to design it for you in any way. You've done such a great job. But Mr. Simonian mentioned that if you take the side yard for unit number 2 off the rear, flip the trash enclosure where you have a pair of doors going towards the alley, and a single or a pair of doors coming towards the space, you're going to have trash bins here, not trash cans. The occupants can enter the trash area with the hinging of the trash bins towards them. They can throw their refuse in there, and then when the trash collection people come on, whatever day they come, they open up those doors, and since it's commercial, they'll pull the trash bins out. So you have dual access. That'll give the opportunity where you can put a little fence there. That'll give the side yard unit number 2 its own private space like 1 and 3, and then you've got three great private little patios. Little sketches here, sorry. But other than that, I think you did an excellent job. I would love to live in, if I ever got booted out of my house, I would love to live in unit number, the one that goes upstairs, because you got that great, huge terrace in the back off the master bedroom, and there's not a privacy issue because you got the adjacent apartment, you're far enough away from the other one, and boy, that would be a great huge terrace. I think you did a great job.
May I just make a comment? The trash enclosure is not a permitted encroachment in the interior setback facing the alley. Although it's correctly demonstrated on the landscape plan, it is set back. I believe it's 5 feet.
Here, okay, so it's
Yes.
set back. Nevertheless, you can still rotate it, get your 5-foot setback, still put the dual doors, and the space between the trash enclosure and here, you can put a door in here, and that still gives you the common area. Just something to explore. Other than that, I think you did a really nice job.
Also, just in regards to...
I hate it when code gets in the way.
Just in regards to the common outdoor space, it's supposed to be accessible for all units, so we cannot make it individual private spaces for each unit.
Yes, correct. But the floor, if you look at sheet A1, he's designated 3 different areas, and cumulatively, are you taking the sum of those cumulative spaces as common? Either way, I think you can still achieve the common area, whatever, and still get these private little areas.
How they get used in the future will, I guess, be determined by their
it's just
close
great opportunities
proximity
to-
to the units.
Yeah, yeah.
Hedge it around.
Had comedy, yeah. You did such a great job. If you kick those things around a little bit more, I think you'll find it even better than what you've done. Other than that, I think you did a really good job. Don't let code get in the way.
Just a minor detail.
Code compliance.
Last but not least, we'll let you go.
They made it so easy for me. I agree with all the comments. I do agree. I think the comments are right on, and I also like to comment you on a great job on the design you've done. It's a very unique place. That street has a lot of apartments, and I think this is one of those places where it won't feel like your typical multifamily place. Mostly because I think you've kept the character of the existing, you've extended to the exterior, to the rear, and you made it look like basically a big house that's subdivided into multifamily units. I missed the discussion on the open space, so I'm going to trust my colleagues that those comments are going to follow through. I do have a couple of comments. The architecture is wonderful. I think the detailing, the eaves matching the existing, all of that, which is why I'm making these two comments. One has to do with the front, and one is with the porch up on the rear. I know that the front is existing, and I'm assuming all that wrought iron is going to get removed. The existing columns in the front, which are currently plastered, I think it would be really nice if you could actually make an improvement there and somehow either strip the plaster or do whatever you need to do there. But stay true to the character of the building, which is plaster in contrast with wood trim, wood railing, wood eaves. I think those columns should not be plastered. They should be, even boxed with wood and painted white, just like your trim. Have a little bit of a trim at the top. I would just work on that. I don't think we would. I wouldn't need to see it as long as you carry the same theme. You could very easily make those very nice, substantial square posts, either boxed or just solid. Probably boxed is more practical because I'm sure the structure there already. And then somehow figure out a nice trim at the top. As far as the balcony, this area here, not the balcony, but the terrace. I think there's an opportunity here where you could also carry the same trim character that you have on the garage doors, because now to me the idea of plaster columns really troubles me because you don't really plaster. It's either wood or stone or steel or whatever, but when you plaster it and make it all monolithic and sort of in the same material as the surfaces of the house, it loses something. So here I think you have an opportunity where you could actually create trim, like I said, similar to the garage, and then it sort of complements these little corbels that you have here. In other words, creating a much richer. I think we haven't talked about the ceiling of that, but I think that ceiling is also very important. I think you could do tongue and groove, paint it like the trim, and not make it drywall or plaster. Again, carrying this wood and wood trim and wood surfaces in contrast with plaster. The windows, the modulation of the windows is done very nicely. There's a variety of sizes, and I don't really have any concerns. But I do want to stand by those two comments. If you would carry through those, it would be great. I think other than that, it's just a really nice job. So I support the project.
Thank you for your comments. I just have a few comments. I too want to say that you did a good job on the project. I think it's always a challenge to take sort of the existing and then try to carry it around the building as you're adding so much square footage too. A few comments that I have regarding, one of them is the sort of the base brick that you're putting in. I think the proportions that you're proposing in the front work well because the face of the actual building is so much lower, and then in proportion that works well. But I think as it turns the corner, I noticed that you increased it a little bit, but I think I'd almost like to see it go a little bit higher in proportion of the two-story that it carries in. It almost looks like it's just kind of like a little planter almost instead of a wainscot that goes underneath there. So maybe take a look at that, maybe increasing it up. Another thing was, I think on your plans, on your west elevation, these windows are sort of centered on this wall, but I think on the rendering, it somehow got pushed to one side. So maybe just make sure that these are centered along there, so they don't look like mistakes there. And another one that I was looking at, if you can do, I'd like to see this portion of the roof try to get reduced in here. I know right now that these are at what, 11 to 12, and then you got this one that's already at I think 7.5 or something to 12. If we can somehow push that back down, I think it would give a little more hierarchy to sort of those peaks there, and would also, as you know, the neighboring complex would have a little more room to sort of see through your building. So if you can maybe lower it to maybe this point or something, just to lower it a little bit, because I don't think you're holding anything in there. It's just added space in there. So if you could do that, that'd be great. Beyond that, I mean, when I first saw this, kind of, I know you're not doing anything to it, but I think it just looks funny there, and I guess you can't do anything about it. You're not touching it, but I think the other comments regarding the columns, I think that's a great comment of actually tying it all together. The windows, I think we would recommend that they be at sort of the least no vinyl, but maybe an aluminum clad at the. And then the surrounds, I guess we could discuss that. They're proposing the wood, if we think that's okay.
It's not a huge issue with me. I mean,
Okay.
no one else touched on it, so if it's with the wood surrounds and it's painted white with the white fascia, as Mr. Aliano
Right.
pointed out,
Yeah,
actually
I
is
think I'm okay with
complementary
that.
to the design, so that's fine. You said aluminum clad.
Is
Plain
it the-
aluminum windows, which is what I was
Oh, is that what they
recommending?
were?
Or you're talking about
No,
clad?
that's what I thought we were talking about, but if the aluminum windows are what they're.
Well, he gave us two choices. He said vinyl or aluminum to be on the economical side.
Right, that's
And I
true.
think, aluminum is a nicer look.
The aluminum clad, wood window with aluminum.
Well, I think he's saying that that's not one of the choices that he's saying.
He's given us, I guess, a choice saying vinyl or aluminum. We could ask him up for more questions. I got the feeling that he was talking about aluminum.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's bring
aluminum,
them back
just
up.
your
You
regular.
can open back up and please state your name and address for the record again.
Armic Chanazarian, 639 West Broadway, Glendale, California. What would you like?
Wow, I wish all applicants were this agreeable.
Well, I mean, if you're proposing aluminum clad, it means it's a wood window with aluminum. That's fairly expensive. Vinyl, I don't think you should do vinyl here. I mean, it's too nice of a house to do these little sort of plastic-looking windows. If you can't afford the wood windows with aluminum cladding, then I would go in the middle, which is the fiberglass. Those are paintable windows, and they're wood on the interior, but the exterior is fiberglass, and you can paint it like wood. So you get this nice painted wood look. It doesn't look like plastic once you paint it.
Is that
They're a
something
little
that
more
you'd be okay
expensive.
with, or?
I believe, let me check, is it possible to check with the clients? I have no objection to that, but if it's going, the problem that we might have is because of the economy. Try to accommodate, but if I could get aluminum or any let's say Milgard windows, any higher grade Milgard windows.
Well, Milgard makes the fiberglass.
Yeah, they make the whole
They're really
range,
nice.
so-
I mean,
I
they're
could
like
use
in the middle,
Milgards. I have
and not
no
as
objection with
expensive
that.
as the aluminum.
Windows.
There's
What are the
also-
existing windows? I'm sorry.
I was just going to make a suggestion. If there's different grades of aluminum windows as well, and there's the commercial line, which is actually some thicker base to it, which is nice, and it's not that much more expensive than the regular aluminum windows. And I know, that they'll come in 7 or 8 different colors. There's some nice Merlot colors. There's some nice, aluminum bronzes. So those are just avenues of discussion that I think in some areas of the city, if we're not going vinyl, then, if someone wants to take on a more economical approach to it, the commercial aluminum windows, they have some nice depth to them, and they're quite nice. So, but it seems as though the designer doesn't really have an answer anyways. He's going to check with the client. I was just trying to come up with some final note for him as opposed to going back and forth. If we could discuss it as opposed to get these questions later. But I'm okay with regular aluminum.
If they have a strong profile. and
If they have a
they're white.
commercial grade, yeah.
Yeah,
But you're talking about just aluminum window, not a wood.
Would you be changing the
A
front ones
regular
out?
aluminum
I believe we're gonna
window
end up
that's
changing it
non-clad,
anyway,
that's
because
on a
we
commercial
try to
grade
match
where it's
everything.
thicker base, mullions and everything.
But the windows,
multiple conversations, please.
the windows mostly, if I judge from the elevation, there's no swing, so I can't tell. They're supposed to be mostly sliders and double hung.
Yes.
So I can easily see the double hung here, but in these guys, these are sliders.
It's the sliders.
Right. So you're gonna get, they're not gonna look like casement windows, which is really what you want to use in a house like this, in terms of style. And you could get casement windows in the fiberglass. I don't think you will get them in the aluminum.
Aluminum
So-
windows certainly look better when they're plain, but without.
Yeah, but see,
the
that's what I'm
divides.
concerning.
Yeah.
If they use sliders, you're gonna change the look.
Could those windows turn into hung windows as well? They make a 4.0 wide.
I think that their bedrooms, he's got to meet the exiting requirement for emergency exiting.
Yes,
I don't think
24 inches.
you'll be able to meet that if you do double hung. Yeah, well,
No,
I don't know. You could, depending on how
He'll
big
be
they
able
are.
to meet it.
Depending how big
It's
they
just
are.
a different look.
I don't mind it. At this style of house, a double hung, I think, is perfect. Yeah. So either a double hung or a casement, but definitely I would not do sliders because a slider to me implies more contemporary.
And you might have an issue with the double hung, because I'm not sure they make a double hung aluminum window. They make a single hung. Do they make a double hung aluminum window? Okay. There you go.
Yeah. So for me, I think for windows, I would say either double hung or a combination of double hung and casement.
Okay.
Would be better, but I would rule out sliders, I think. Except for the doors, where it may be more practical to have sliders, it's probably okay.
Well, I think it sounds like we're okay with not going, I guess if they prefer not to go as high as maybe a aluminum clad or a fiberglass clad, we're okay with some sort of aluminum window that has a profile that
Commercial grade.
Right.
commercial grade. And so
But I
maybe
think
we'll
the
put that
planning
as,
should sign off on that, I think, if you...
Sounds like they were looking at mill guard, so, yes. So we'll say mill guard or equal. That's
Substantial profile.
mill guard / commercial grade aluminum window or fiberglass window with a profile is acceptable.
are we okay with the white that they're proposing?
Yeah, I think white is nice in this house, yeah.
Okay, so I think we have a good handle on,
And then we're all in agreement with the either double hung, casement, or a combination of the two,
As opposed to sliders.
or the windows. I mean, I think, I haven't checked all the doors, but some doors may not be practical.
So in other words, if he's going full aluminum, that's not fiberglass or that's not aluminum clad, and if he's going with a pure aluminum window, then he should consider hung windows or
And/or,
casements, but no sliders.
I'd say no sliders. I mean, unless you guys feel
it's a
differently.
cost factor too, because casements will cost more.
Yeah, but they will really go well with the style. The sliders, you're gonna get that change of profile.
And what is the feeling about the divided lights? We've
As long as they're
heard,
true.
the question is, if we have double hung windows, we hear that divided lights are not necessary, but for the casement windows, there should be the three-dimensional on the exterior divided lights rather than no divided lights, which would give a more contemporary look. Is that correct?
I like the divided lights, yeah.
Okay, so the divided lights are preferable, except in cases where, because if you notice, there are two windows on the ground floor towards the rear. I don't remember which elevation it is, that show double hung windows, but they also have divided lights. That would be in the west elevation.
The garage ones.
Right. So, to be consistent with the look of the house, regardless of whether or not you went to double hung windows, you might want to require a three-dimensional divided light on the exterior. And that's how we
Yeah.
we
That's fine.
always talk about it not a true divided light because that's in an insulated window, great expense.
Does that make sense? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is it back up? I think that's the end for our comments.
vinyl,
Do
though.
we have
We're in
any?
agreement, no
Yeah,
vinyl.
no
Yes,
vinyl.
no vinyl
That's what we
windows.
said. Would anyone like to, well, why don't we go over the comments that were noted?
Sure. I have a comment in regards to providing a sliding door for the new third unit along the west elevation to provide direct access to one of the common outdoor areas. Is that all in agreement to make that a condition? The open trellis above the garage where they're showing the deck, we want like that to be an open trellis and provide a better transition at the gable, I guess, that's immediately right next to it to provide a better transition as it kind of flows when you move from the north to south, as you pan across from north to south, that last gable, right before you hit that deck. Were we all in agreement to make that a condition, or a...
Yeah.
You can just go ahead and read it. If we have an issue, we'll just say, oh, no, that's not what we meant.
Okay. Pushing back the gate, the existing gates to maybe portions where the porch begins, I guess at the rear. I heard that as a suggestion.
An acceptable distance.
To an accept-
So it's not facing the house.
Do we have a suggestion on how far back it should be pushed?
No, I think
Well-
the applicant can work with
And is that a condition?
that. I think yes.
Okay.
The trim, I guess on the trellis, on the new trellis, we're going to have that the existing, or the trim they're showing above the garage, maybe providing that the trim to replicate that along the trellis.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I heard the comment of the trim they're showing that's surrounding the new three-car garage on the, there's a trim on the new three-car garage to replicate that on areas around, on the trellis.
On the terrace, right. The
On the terrace.
Columns, right? Of-
The columns and the header. And the ceiling in there as well.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of confusion because on the one hand, there's one board member talking about the way the deck is designed with a roof and adding trims, and then there's another board member talking about a trellis. So I think we need some clarity as to whether the board would like to require that covering over the deck to be a trellis rather than an enclosed roof. Staff had thought that adds a little bit of extra mass and appearance to the building, and staff had suggested in our recommendations that it turn into a trellis. But we're hearing a couple of different things, so we're not exactly sure what to condition.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying that if you keep the roof, then that opening should have a trim. But if there's a preference of a trellis, I think that comment that I made kind of disappears because now you're doing a trellis. It's going to be all made out of wood. So, yeah,
So
I'm okay
you'll
either
have
way.
to give us a direction, and we'll
How do you guys
put it
feel?
down.
Confused where we were at.
Oh, just this,
I mean, the trellis is nice.
staff had recommended that this, instead of becoming a full roof, be more of a trellis element at the top to sort of cut back on the
Pretty
bulk
nice,
of it as it transitions down to the garage level.
Soften it up.
I could go either way. I mean, I can see the practical reason of having a roof because they could
As
keep it rain.
As Mr. Aliano pointed out, you know, if a roof is maintained, perhaps adding some trim and ornamentation to that
The opening
column
and the ceiling.
and the ceiling. So it's maybe something perhaps the applicant could work with staff on. If they feel strongly about having a roof, then they have to design it with some features. However, if they choose to go down the trellis route, then they could
go with a trellis. Should we go forward in that kind of
Yeah,
manner, or
let's
do
go
we have a
step- Why don't we
preference?
go a step further? I think I like where you're going with this. You know, the trellis, again, we could have them review with staff, but the portion that you have right now with the roof, and you have columns on the ends, I was saying earlier you should put some trim around those openings like the garage, but maybe another way to do it is that this piece here, if you feel strongly that you should have a roof, maybe all these supports, the corners, those could all be made out of wood. Just wood posts, maybe double wood posts or triple, one at the corner and one on the side. So it's more like woodwork that's supporting a roof, so it's much lighter looking, and you can still get your roof covering. If you can make that look nice, we can have staff sort of.
Well, I guess the roof as it's drawn, the gable facing the rear, does have the trim on it, and then it's also drawn at the side with open rafter tails. So,
But the columns and the pilasters, those are the ones that you can make those out of wood.
right.
And now it becomes a wood structure with a roof rather than a.
Right. So really the roof design, what we're hearing is that if the roof would be enclosed, and the applicant has expressed a strong desire to maintain the enclosed roof, if the roof would be enclosed, the actual design of the roof and the trim, as shown, is sufficient, and then the columns would be wood rather than stucco. Is that correct?
It will make it more lightweight, and then the railing and the wood columns all kind of blend
Okay,
together.
so then lighten the columns as much as possible and provide wood columns with some trim at the top.
Yeah, even the beams, the
Right.
the beams across, it's all basically woodwork. There will be no plaster at all around
Right.
the supports or the headers, anything like that. I'm okay with that. That's actually,
Okay.
I think seems practical,
Yeah, like
especially
consensus
since
on
they feel
that.
strongly about the roof.
Let's go to the next one.
The existing three-car garage at the rear, I heard a comment on including materials or somehow modifying it to blend in or complement the addition.
My only fear is that if they touch it, they're going to have to do something to it. 'cause
Well,
it's-
if you modify it substantially, I think the comment was more about the materials that's on it, but not actually modifying the area or the walls or anything like that, if I'm mistaken.
Ask staff, if they do modify it, does it change, it looks like it's right on the lot line right now. Would that require a variance?
Right. Again, if you remove more than 50% of the exterior walls and roof of that garage, the legal nonconformities, essentially, the size, the setbacks and whatnot,
Interior dimensions.
unfortunately, those would be lost as well. So,
If we changed and put the same garage doors, is that a modification that would exceed the,
for the same garage doors, no. That would not create a significant impact to the legal nonconformity.
so if it could be painted in new garage doors, it could make it work that way?
They could also, if need be, it's a flat roof garage, so you can't really, sometimes, if there's a pitched or gable garage, you can change the exterior covering going from composite shingle to some other type of material to.
Yeah, border or
But
something.
in this case, they could add a border, they could add brickwork along the bottom, something
So
to
it
tie it
appears they
in.
could do enough without requiring it to have a variance.
Correct.
To upgrade it. So I would recommend that we get a condition.
Make it the condition that they can add a border and brickwork.
That they would add whatever's necessary within the confines of not changing, requiring a variance to upgrade it to complement the new.
Should we say that they can work with staff on updating the?
Correct.
Okay.
Or to provide design elements that would allow it, or that would bring it into a more
Allow it to-
complementary type of condition.
Another comment I heard was the incorporating brick and on sand instead of having the California landscape driveway on the side yard. Okay. I heard a comment on stripping the pilaster of the existing columns in the front porch and providing a boxed wood columns to provide more of
Cemented header. More like a post and beam.
Increasing the brick band that's surrounding the entire building, increasing the height, make it more proportional.
And can we get a little bit of an idea? Would you consider getting it all the way to the sill of those windows on the ground floor?
Close to the sill is fine, yeah.
Because it seems to me that if there's a very small dimension in between, that also might be awkward. So if we're recommending it go all the way up to the sill line on those windows, then that's a direction that we can makes it easier for staff to work with the applicant.
Would that be the sill on the lowest windows, or
Yes.
windows are?
We would suggest on the predominant sill, so not those two low ones, but on that elevation, for example, there are 4 other windows that have a sill height that's higher.
So you would go to the higher one?
Well, this is up to you. We're just making suggestions.
You've drawn something here, right? And
Yeah,
it was
but I drew it
your
on this
comment.
one.
Yeah.
But on this one, I mean, those are the only windows that come lower than... And there's no real need for the garage to have a... So it looks like the header is lower on that one than the others.
If you did it to the lower ones, you'd only have a couple inches the rest of the way around, which might look odd.
And on the other side of the house, or the other side of the building, there are no lower windows, so that may appear as an arbitrary line.
Yeah, the top of this is actually lower than the other one.
Mr. Yu, do you want to make that a consideration maybe, and maybe leave it as is? Because when you're looking at the different facades, it might be hard to find a middle ground.
Well, I think it's either that or that.
I mean, so you're saying make this still the same height as that?
Well,
The
I
bottom
mean,
of
if
them?
they have to do it, I mean, my only suggestion was that we bring the brick up a little bit to
On the driveway
to cut down
side.
on the proportion of
Because the
it.
driveway side is the visible side, basically. And so what we do on the driveway side could be different than what's done on the other side as well.
Mhm.
Or not do anything on the other side and just concentrate on the driveway side.
See, this would be the driveway side coming in, the other way going around.
The brick on the other side is going to be hidden by vegetation anyway,
Right.
so I don't think it's a big issue.
Okay. So I'll be okay with, as long as the driveway side, the east elevation, it goes to the bottom of the sill, or the sill itself to...
So the bottom of the sill for the windows that come lower? Is that what you're saying? Okay, very good. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Another comment I heard was reduce the height of the ridge of the roof and the center portions of the, I guess, the east and, well, shown on the east and
It's
west
just the center,
elevations.
yeah.
The center. Last one was the center of the windows on the west elevation. That's on that, where the variation changes, that little bump out. I heard from Chairman Yu.
Say that again?
The center of the windows that appear
Yeah.
to be drawn,
I think the plans are, they have them centered, but on the elevations, they're not shown
elevations.
centered.
Okay, okay. Call roll call. I'm kind of lost here. But.
Anything else? Anything?
We heard, forgive me if any of this is repetitive, eliminate the queen palms that are shown in the landscape plan and utilize a screening that's not as high water use. We heard a comment on the decking. Was that the paving material?
If it is a trellis, it's
Oh, I see.
The decking itself is seen from above.
Okay, so that comment essentially disappears because it's not a trellis. Okay, very good. And the front there's existing wrought iron that staff has recommended, and I think it's shown that wrought iron is being eliminated. So I think there was a comment that at the front, it should be designed to complement the Craftsman style. So I get the sense that the design has not yet accomplished that Craftsman style, because I believe that was the intent. So we probably would like a little more clarification on that. What's being shown right now on the front window design is different than what exists. It looks like a wood railing design or a wood design in front of that window.
I originally brought it up because the gate design was different, but if the gates are pushed back, and if everybody else really doesn't like that design, I think I'm comfortable with leaving it up with the applicant to come up with a solution to complement the architecture.
Well, I think going with the wood, maybe rail is...
Okay, so wood rails as opposed to wrought iron should be used.
Yeah.
And is that, but if the gates are pushed back, they can be wrought iron. Is that what we're hearing?
It's preferable if they match the architecture, but if they're not going to, they'd have to be moved back. In
Okay.
either case, but it would be preferable if they
Okay,
match
so
the-
consider a wood fence design to match the architecture, so that would be a consideration. Pushing those fences and gate back is a condition,
I
but,
think making a gate that would complement the architecture would make it look lower and wider.
okay, very good.
That's all right. But they could probably use steel structure and maybe clad it with wood, because you're not going to be able to get the wood to be able to span and be able to have good hinging. You could have some steel that may be clad in wood, and then the rest could be wood, the infills and things like that.
And then we had a comment on turn the trash enclosure around to face the alley. We had another board member asking that it be that the trash enclosure be double-sided. So if we can get clarification, I think that's the last point I had.
The idea was that it's accessed from the north, from the alley, and then also from the south for the tenants to drop stuff off. And then the east side, I guess, would be a solid wall
Okay.
to accommodate the...
So access from the north and south so as not to impact on the open space. Very good. Thank you for all those clarifications.
Do we have a motion to consider?
I move to approve the project with the stated conditions. And did we have any considerations as well? Conditions and considerations.
I will second that.
This would be roll call to approve the project with the conditions and considerations. Board Member Aliano?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Palmer?
Yes.
Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
And Chairperson Yu?
Yes.
Okay, we have a 5-0 vote to approve with conditions and considerations.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was our only case, so...
That was. Last bit of business for the board would be approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. The first one dating back to June 11th, and this has been continued multiple times simply because we have not had the required number of individuals to vote on this set of minutes. So this would be for June 11th, and Board Member Insua and Board Member Yu were both here. So
do I have to pass to...
would either, I think, however you prefer. I mean, there's only 2 of you, so at this point in
we
time,
can vote on this.
someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I have one little change on there.
Yes.
4721 Boston,
Would you mind telling me which page that is?
page 3.
Page 3, okay, yes.
Let's see, it's condition 2. It's towards the end, it says such as wood, fiberglass, or aluminum material. If we could just clarify that fiberglass and aluminum, we're talking about clad windows. And then maybe just add
Okay,
clad. in there.
forgive me, I'm on page 3 for 4721 Boston Avenue. under
Yeah,
the
condition number
conditions.
2.
Condition number, all windows visible from Boston Avenue shall utilize better quality such as wood, fiberglass, or aluminum materials, and that would be the aluminum or,
Well, I think we should clarify that we're talking about clad, because then what if they use aluminum
Yeah.
windows?
Clad, wood windows with clad.
Right?
clad
Okay,
I think that was our
Actually,
intent, right?
correct. Now, what we can do then, in this case, since there is a question, I would suggest that the case planner, who's actually Dennis Joe, review the tapes just to make sure that the wording was specific, that it would be a wood-clad window. If, that way we can,
Yeah, that's a
Rest assured.
challenge because those conditions of approval have probably gone out to the applicant some time ago. So,
Okay.
I.
Would that be a note that you'd have when you go and inspect it to make sure that
Well, it's a challenge if the conditions have been sent out. I'm not aware of the status of the project if it's been signed off, and then if a wood clad, aluminum clad or wood clad. To be honest, this is the first time the clad issue has come up. So
It's reading, it's supposed to be clad, but I think it could be interpreted as something else. So that's the only clarification I wanted to make. If it doesn't, I guess, change anything,
yeah, because you could
Do
get
it
the
the way-
impression that it'd be a high-quality fiberglass window or high-quality aluminum window without the wood clad. And that's why I suggest perhaps we can, unfortunately, continue this set of minutes one more time.
House
so
will
that
be built by the time.
the house will, no, but that we could then go ahead.
Well,
have
how
the
about-
opportunity
how
to
about we
review the
just-
tape, because just to ensure.
yeah, how about we take that under advisement and we review the tape because again, the minute rather than continue the minutes
so we'll just
because
approve it and then we'll review it.
Yeah, I would say approve it, and we'll take that comment back, and Dennis will watch the tape, because if there was no mention of cladding, then it kind of changes the quality of the window after the decision has been made, which is something we don't want to do.
Exactly.
Do you know which area that we're noting?
What project was that again?
Case
Yeah,
3?
I know.
You have
Unfortunately,
it?
he doesn't have a set of minutes,
Oh,
but
okay.
we'll make sure that he.
Okay, sounds
okay.
good. Then I make a motion to approve the minutes as is with
Okay.
consideration for that part.
Second.
And then I have a second by Board Member Insua. Board Member Yu? Or
Yes.
Chairman Yu? Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Motion passes 2-0. Next would be the set of minutes from August the 6th. And Board Member Simonian was absent that day. So the other 4 individuals. We had sign program on South Central, new single-family home revision on Buckingham Road, and a new single-family home on Nesmith, and a Berkeley addition. So 4 cases that evening.
Okay, I just have a couple of things on that one. 420 Nesmith Road, page 5. Condition 10 and 11. I just want to clarify, I think we specifically mentioned which corners of the site these were referring to. I just want to put it on the minutes.
Okay.
Like, for example, it reads, maintain the existing mature trees, but I think we said specifically it was like the southeast corner or something.
Okay.
And same thing with number 10, so if we could just add that based on the tape.
We'll make sure that, and this was case planner Jale Kiazad will amend those. We'll take a look at the tape.
It's that
So,
steep hillside one, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion to approve.
I would move we approve those minutes based on clarification of the trees.
Okay, motion made by
Second.
Board Member Palmer, a second by Board Member Aliano. Is that correct?
yes?
Okay. Roll call. Board Member Palmer?
Yes.
Board Member Insua?
Yes.
Board Member Aliano?
Yes.
And Chairman Yu?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. And last but not least, the minutes from August 20th. And
I was not there.
yes, Board Member Simonian, Palmer, and Chairman Yu were both, well, all 3 of you were here. And Board Members Aliano and Insua were not. Just to remind you, this was for a case 460 Edwards Place, a single-family addition, only 1 case.
I move we approve those minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Board Member Palmer, a second by Board Member Insua. Board Member Palmer?
Yes.
For Insua? Oh, I'm sorry. Did Board Member...
That was
Right, Board Member Insua wasn't even here. Forgive me.
It's like,
Okay.
hey.
Only in spirit.
Okay, that was the second by Board Member Simonian. Board Member Palmer, Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
And Chairman Yu.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0. With that said, there are no other items on tonight's agenda. Is there a
Wait, one moment.
Sorry.
Sorry. We just wanted to remind you that on September 22nd, staff will be bringing to council a couple of items that might be of great interest to you. There will be a discussion on windows, replacement windows. Very often, those items are brought to the counter, and counter staff you don't often see those applications, but sometimes you do. And then also the results, the reporting out from our study sessions will also be reporting to council and recommending action based on what we heard from you and also the Design Review Board too. So if you want to join us, it's going to be a fairly lengthy evening. I hear there are many other items on the agenda, and planning always goes last. Or you can just stream it. So we just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned at 6:35.
We don't need a second on the.
Thank you very much.